In today's video, we're talking about the Detroit Lions surprise cut candidates as training camp is nearing its end, and we got cut date coming up, and it's a big deal. The front office have a lot to go over because the depth on this team is very well all around. It's going to be hard to cut down to this roster, and good players are going to be cut, unfortunately, from this team. Before we get in there, who will surprisingly not make the final Lions roster? Give me a surprise cut candidate in the comments below. Surprise cut candidate, the first one that would be a surprise to me would be Detroit Lions wide receiver who we got last year, Tim Patrick. The Lions' depth, though, right now at wide receiver is amazing. And with the emergence of Isaac Tesla and other players like Dominic Lovett and Jackson Meeks who are doing really well, it does give options for Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes to decide, is this something where he's an aging wide receiver, these guys are doing well, can they trust that these young receivers will do that? I fully trust that they believe in Isaac Tesla. That's absolutely what I believe. They believe. I mean, clearly, he's getting playing time at number 3. It looks like we have 3 number 1 wide receivers out there, so it's made the idea of Tim Patrick expendable. Still, I don't want Tim Patrick to get cut, and I think it'd be a surprise cut because the Lions have great depth at wide receiver right now. Why do you want to reduce that of potential? When probably one of those guys could make the practice squad. Next player that I have would be a surprise cut candidate would be Craig Reynolds. Every year he's on the surprise cut candidate list. He makes the roster. In my opinion, it'd be shock. He's good as a number 3 right now. He's done well in Detroit for the past couple years. We know exactly what we have in him. Why in the world would the Lions want to go ahead and get rid of him? I know that Jacob Sailors has looked well. Still, we're trying to win a Super Bowl. So give me a surprise cut candidate in the comments right now. Before we move on to more surprise cut candidates, how about roster locks? I got 2 players that I do believe will be roster locks. I get asked about these players, and they are making the team. Rock Ya-Sin has done an amazing job in Detroit in preseason. He has been absolutely stunning with his hard hits and good coverage. We lost Dennis Rakestraw for the year. Rock Ya-Sin filled in perfectly for that position. So I believe he is an absolute lock to make this roster. And I'm excited to see him if he has to play. I don't want to see him play because he's a backup. But he would be the Kindle Vildo, right? If there's injuries, I trust him more. Grant Stuard is a lock to make this roster. What a pickup in free agency. Not a big high-end free agent pickup, but he's been outstanding on the field, sideline to sideline, hard-hitting, and they actually have him in kick return. I don't know if kick return is going to be something that he consistently does for the Detroit Lions, but he is universal, and he's a quality player. These guys are locks to make the roster. Now, but do some 4 players who are not surprise cut candidates before we get back to the surprise. Won't be Broderic Martin. Broderic Martin has not done anything, in my opinion, to make this roster. He had 1 decent preseason game. Just, in my opinion, that's going to be tough for him to jump when you got a lot of defensive tackles on this team that can help out. Jamarco Jones, tackle, that's not going to be a surprise cut right there. Why is that? Giovanni Manu, Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, Dan Skipper. I think that's just the route they'll go, and that gives Jamarco Jones expendable. Jacob Sailors, running back. He's had a good camp. I got to give him that. But the Lions got great depth at running back, unfortunately. Now, I think he gets released. Teams may pick him up. maybe like the Dallas Cowboys, kind of hurting for running backs right now. But if nobody picks Sailors up, expect him to be a player that the Detroit Lions would put on the practice squad, because he's done a really good job in preseason, and I would love for him on the practice squad. Mitchell Agude. I will absolutely not be shocked if he's cut, because the depth at defensive line, I know there's been some injuries, but Ukwu's showed out more, and I think that makes Mitchell Agude a lock to not make the 53-man roster. How many wide receivers will the Lions have on the roster this year? Yeah, generally it's a 5 or 6, but some people think that there could be a 6 or a 7. So in the comments, how many wide receivers do you think the Lions will have on the roster? Let's continue on. The 8th player that I would be a surprise cut candidate would be Giovanni Manu. Why is that? The depth at tackle is not great, and I just talked about Jamarco Jones. It doesn't make sense that they'd put him above Giovanni Manu. I think this is, if he doesn't develop after this year, next year he would be the to look at. But I still think he's got another year in Detroit because of his development, because of the lack of a lot of tackles on this football team right now. So that makes it a little bit easier for him. Next player on my list is Kingsley Eguakin, because the injuries to the offensive line, and we lost a center in the preseason. We need to have someone back there, and I think I would be shocked if Eguakin now would be cut because of the lack of depth at that position. They went right. Tate Ratledge practiced just a couple times at center. So if Graham Glasgow goes down, wouldn't you want to have a center on the team? Now, this could be an initial cut. Maybe another center gets released, or a lineman that they believe could do center. But I do believe he makes the initial 53-man roster. And it's all the injuries to the offensive line, and that's why you're seeing these players that I have. You know, Gio and Kingsley. It's just injuries, right? And you got to have somebody out there. So I think it would be shocked that they were cut because of those injuries. And the Lions, hey, that's just, I think that's what they'll do right there. I don't know if this is not going to be a surprise cut, but it's going to be a surprise for fans who don't watch the Lions much. In my opinion, Hendon Hooker's cut. It's not going to be shocked to me, but it'll be shocked to some people. That's why I put it as surprise. It won't surprise me at all. It won't surprise the fans that stare at preseason, because Hendon Hooker has been really bad. He's been bad. And Kyle Allen's been much better. He's gotten worse, in my opinion. He has regressed from last year. You know, at this point, why would you keep investing time in this? He looks like he is defeated. The Lions will go in a different route, in my opinion. Let's continue on with my 5th player surprise cut candidate, and that would be Dominic Lovett. Oh, it's a 50-50 here, right? 5, 6, or 7 receivers. We just talked about that as a question. I'm 50-50 on this. In my opinion, he deserves to make the roster. Meeks Hell deserves to make the roster. They both do. I don't believe they go 7. I don't know if they go 6. So I'm 50-50 on that. There's so much talent in the team, it makes it hard. And one of those receivers, Meeks or Lovett, you'd think would make the roster on another team. That's the problem right there. So we'll see. It would be a surprise, though, because he's liked by a lot of fans. Shane Zylstra will legit be a surprise cut candidate because of the depth after him is not that great. I think it's pretty much a 1, 2, 3 at tight end. We know it's Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra. I'd be shocked if they did not have him on the team, because he's just been playing better than the rest, besides the 2 starters. And that's just the next. Dang, I put 2 players on this list as a double, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to go to a skip one. That is weird. I don't know why I put Kingsley Eguakin twice, so we're going to go to Isaac Ukwu as the next player that would be a surprise cut candidate. Why is that a surprise? Well, he got 2 sacks, and we just lost Hassanein for, it looks like, the whole year. I think with the Hassanein injury, that pushes in the idea that Ukwu, as of right now, makes the roster, unless they bring in Zadarius Smith or somebody else. But with the Hassanein injury, you would have to assume Ukwu would get the nod. That would be my thought process here. Last player on my list is Khalil Dorsey. He's been a player that the Lions really like, but he has had some injury issues as of late. The Lions' cornerback room has been absolutely stunning in preseason. The depth is really good. Really good. Khalil Dorsey, though, he's good on special teams. He's good in the secondary. It is a player they like. So I would be shocked that they released Khalil Dorsey because of those situations of what he can bring to this team. Multi-dimensional, multi-facets, special teams, defense. But the depth has been amazing. And there is a lot of quality players in the secondary. And there's just a lot of quality players all around on this football team. So that would be a shock to me to see him go. And, we'll see what happens. But that is my list here. There's plenty of other players you can throw in this list, right? You could put in like a Pat O'Connor or something like that, someone lower in the list. But this is my surprise cut candidates, my players who I think will get cut, all of that lovely stuff. Give me your thoughts in the comments, folks, about this. Who's your surprise cut candidate? With that said, adios.